Welcome to the Attract, Sell, Nurture podcast. My name is Case Dean, and on this podcast, we celebrate the power of service businesses and their ability to change our world. So join us for insightful conversations with innovative service business owners and entrepreneurs who are making waves within their industry. We're going to delve into their experiences, their triumphs, their challenges, their inspirations, their motivations, and the difference that they are making in the lives of the people that they care about the most. So whether you're a business owner yourself or passionate about making an impact, this podcast is for you. It's more than just business. This is about using business to transform lives and our world. So tune in and be inspired by their stories and their insights on service business and societal transformation. Let's get into this episode. Okay, so welcome to the very first episode of the Attract, Sell, Nurture podcast, or Attract, Sell, Nurture the podcast. I haven't decided yet, but my first guest is Scott Doel. Is that how you pronounce it?
It's the right pronunciation for me. My mother would be a lot posher. It would be Doel. It would be like.
Is it really?
Doel. No, she's really posh.
No, but hold on. It's your mother, so where does the name come from and the pronunciation? It starts to sound a bit European.
We think it is. We think it actually comes from France, to do with when they were handing out what was the original form of dole, as in looking after the people that were unemployed as food. So we think it comes from there. But we don't know.
I have to say I like Scott Doel.
I'm happy with either.
But at the same time, when you're presenting yourself, you're presenting yourself as Scott Doel, is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've always pronounced it as Doel.
Really, yeah. Interesting. Very interesting. Well, thank you so much for being on this episode. What I would like to do first, and for the people listening, is if you could give a very brief, I know that you're a performance coach, but if you could give a very brief introduction to what you do. Also, if it's okay, where you are.
Okay.
In the world, that is.
So, in the world, I'm in the southwest, in a little city called Bath.
Okay.
Performance coaching for me it's a bit of a skill set, is to help somebody improve. And that could be on many things. Most of our performance starts within here, within the grey matter at the top. So most of what I do focuses around the psychology or the neuroscience of the brain and how things then link onto that to help one improve or to help one change something.
Absolutely amazing. Now, whenever I hear performance coach, I always think of Wendy Rhodes from Billions. I just love this character. You know the series?
I do know the series. Yeah, I love
Wendy. How I've read an article about it, but it would be interesting from your point of view. How close to the truth or to what you do is that character Wendy Rhodes? What the work that she does?
Yeah, I'm not as excitable as Wendy, particularly outside of work.
Okay, fair enough.
But it's very similar. So a lot of the processes and things that go on are standard coaching tools and methodologies that she uses, and it's really nice to see that in a mainstream production. But I tend to stay at the level that I feel the client needs to be, get more excited if I need to get them more excited, or slow it down if I need to slow them down.
Interesting. Well, we'll get more into your clients in a moment, but I'm most interested in learning how you got into this.
It was a bit of a journey, if I'm honest, Case. So back in about 2004, I moved from what I was doing. So I was working in a large automotive at their head office, and I moved into the learning and development side, at the training side of things.
Wait. What were you doing in the automotive? What were you doing before you moved into the...
Looking after a large fleet of vehicles. So I left school, I started as a mechanic, worked my way up through in the branch, ran a few branches, moved to a manufacturer, looked after a fleet of vehicles because it was easy. I had an accident.
And when you say looking after a fleet of vehicles, what do you mean? Like you're the mechanic for these vehicles, or...?
No, it would go to a garage. The garage would say we need to do A, B and C. They would then contact me to say, can we do this? And I would agree or not agree, and then agree costs.
So you'd been working there for how long before you moved into the learning development bit?
Oh, it's so long ago, I couldn't really tell you. It's probably nearer 13 months, I think. Something like
Really?
that. Yeah, not very long.
Okay.
So yeah, I moved into learning and development and sort of found my niche. I never really enjoyed getting my hands dirty, hence why I came off of the tools. So I enjoyed the learning and development and the learning that helped me improve. You know, to make me a better learning and development practitioner, I had to do things differently. And then that carried on into other avenues, one of those being coaching. And we did a little course on coaching and I really enjoyed it. I decided to upskill myself into several other different forms of coaching, including I got a level 7, which is a master's in executive coaching and mentoring. So I studied that and then delivered it to the board within the organisation and several other people as coaches themselves. And it really struck more and more of a chord the more I dug into coaching. So I did other tools to go with it. So things like a neurolinguistic master practitioner or positive psychology professor. And there are so many other bits and pieces that overlap with coaching that help me use the performance part, understanding how the brain works to paint a better picture to you to help you improve. Because ultimately it's not me that's going to do the improvement. It's me that's going to help you understand how you can do the improvement.
Got it. Now, I think there's still a bit of the story missing. Mechanic, looking after a fleet of cars, and your main persons you're dealing with are in the garage. And then there's learning development. I think we're missing a bit of the story. How did you get from the fleet of cars to the learning development bit? What was going on there?
Oh, I don't want to say anything negative. I wasn't enjoying the role. There was a bit of a bumping of heads at one point.
Yeah,
So
it happens.
had a bit of a falling out, quite a vocal falling out. Decided I wanted to apply for the other role. Had the interview when I was not allowed into a meeting with the other role and got the job.
But were you just doing the role to get away from the role that you didn't like, or was there something about this new role that you're like, I want a bit of that? That's something I've always been interested in.
I wanted something different. I didn't know what it was. I didn't have the clarity or the vision to want to do something else. I just had that it wasn't me, it wasn't right. There's an emptiness, there's something that's not there. And I was a completely different person in that time. There were a few other bumps along the way that made me explore more of the coaching. So I was doing the coaching within the workplace and I was coaching outside with sport. I'm from the West Country, so rugby's my thing.
Yeah.
So I was doing a lot of sports coaching. Then I was coaching elite representatives. So I was doing some of the England ladies team, a lot of mindset stuff to go with that. I had personal issues that have caused my journey to have a few bumps. So namely divorce. Divorce leads to the confidence issue that goes with that. Also leads sometimes to addiction or self-medication. Leads to not looking after yourself. And all of these things have come through, and I'm out the other side, I'm okay, I'm fine. But all of these things are part of the tapestry that makes Scott.
Right.
So that's what I bring into what we do, and how I interact with my clients.
So from that experience you had, or the experiences you had from coaching, to where you are now, where you are firmly a performance coach, what would you say has been, I suppose, the second from last transition that got you firmly into where you are now as a performance coach?
There's 2 books. Code of the Extraordinary Mind by Vishen Lakhani. Mind Valley.
Valley, yeah.
I read that book and understood a lot of the stuff. And I've never gifted something in that way, this piece of knowledge. I bought more books, packaged them up and gave them to my kids. This was a big thing. Aside from that, we're getting a bit of juddering on the picture. Can you see okay, Case?
Yeah, it's fine. I think it'll be okay because it's going to do its own buffering, and it should be okay afterwards because it's going to be doing something on the back end.
Okay, so I'll carry on. So I had this Code of the Extraordinary Mind. There's a lot of the tools in there that I'm thinking, well, wow, it's obviously this is correct and it fits because of. And then I came across another book, Steve Peters' The Chimp Paradox, which explains the mind in very simple terms. And both of these two together meant that I then focused or zeroed in with regards to what's going on up here rather than the rest of it and how it all fits together.
And when would you say you officially, maybe through an outside organization, but I think I'm more interested in you. When would you say that you considered yourself officially a performance coach in the way that you are now? Because it seems like you've been different kinds of coaches over time, but now firmly planted within performance coaching. When would you say that you officially became a performance coach?
I'm really struggling to hear, to be honest, Case.
Is it the earphones?
Sorry. No.
Is it earphones?
I can. No, it's not the earphones. It's on your end. It just keeps cutting out. Can you say something else again? I can hear you now.
Yeah, I
can't see you anymore.
Is it fine now? You can't see me?
Yeah, it's fine now with regards to the sound. I can't see anything, but that's okay. Could you ask the same question again? I apologise.
Yeah, I was gonna. No, it's fine. I was saying to you, considering the different kinds of coaching you've been doing over the years, and now you're firmly planted within performance coaching, what was it for you, or when do you feel you officially became a performance coach?
I'd love to say that there was some epiphany date or some transition that occurred for me. But it was just a case of I've been on a bit of a journey. I've had some bumps. Life's given me a few knocks and bruises, and there are other people that have been through the same as me. There are other people that are still going through the same as I've been through. And I'm thinking that maybe the stories that I tell as part of my coaching and the interaction and the word choice can help somebody along that journey and make it shorter. That's what I see the role of a coach is. It's not trying to decomplicate the journey. It's not trying to add big words or a big different way. It's just to make it easier. Make it easier for you to get from there to there.
Is it like but what would you say? Is it a guide, or is it somebody who's accompanying the person on their journey, or somebody who is kind of cheerleading the person on their journey? What would you say?
I would say I'm a guide, but I would drill that down a little bit more that I'm Yoda. I know Yoda's really old, bit shriveled, bit shorter than me, doesn't talk properly, but I sort of feel that that's my role. You know, I might not be telling you the thing you want to hear,
right?
But I'm telling you what you need to hear at that time.
How did you decide exactly the kind of, because I'm assuming there are a type of people you work with, because you could be working with all kinds of people. You've mentioned quite from the sport through to executive coaching, but what kind of people are you working with now? Better yet, who would you say are the most ideal clients for your type of coaching?
Ideally, it's somebody that's at a point in life that they're stuck. It might be a big life transition, it might be something, but they feel that there is more. Just like when I moved from looking after the fleet of vehicles into learning and development, there was something missing. I couldn't tell you what it was, but there was something missing. So it's someone that's stuck. They feel that they want more, so they know they're stuck. That makes them more malleable and able to have the conversation because they know there's something that's not right. They know they want to move towards something rather than, I'm stuck and I don't know what to do. I can help with that.
What is it? When you say you can help with that, what is the main thing you're helping these people with? The main thing. If it was one thing, if you could bring it down to, it doesn't have to be one word, but one thing that you're helping them with, what is that?
Clarity.
Clarity.
It's always clarity.
Okay.
And you think you're clear. I mean, we spoke yesterday and I thought I was clear on something and you asked me a few questions and that put me straight back into the fog. It's being able to clear that fog make it part, and there's the clarity, there's the thing. Whether that be a lighthouse in the distance, that's the clarity that comes through the fog, or the beam from the light, that's the clarity that takes you to the step. We don't need to know the entire journey. We only need to see the next step and trust that the next step will lead us to another step.
Is this the kind of, is this, I think it's difficult to say even from my knowledge of just coaching, but how do you work with people? Do you work with them over a set period of time? Are they supposed to have the goal or whatever they're trying to get unstuck within a certain amount of time? Is it an ongoing process? How does that work?
I've set a program up for 12 weeks. So we've got a first stage is understanding how the mind works and to give us that space. Because if we're not changing the mind, we're just going to use the same thought patterns. So let's change the mind. That's going to be the first part. Then the next part is we're going to try and find out what you should be doing and why you should be doing it. There are several frameworks, several tools. Many of them are old Japanese tools, to be honest. After that, we then would look at how you maintain that momentum. So you've managed to clear some space in the head to get new thinking patterns. You've managed to understand what you should be doing. And then we look at the momentum that's needed, because life chucks things at you, tries to trip you up. Your family does stuff. They don't mean to trip you up, but they pull you around in different directions. It's a case of those 3 steps would go together to help us use the mind, build a goal, keep going. And then I've put another 3 weeks on that we can work as a group to try and make sure all of these things are being put into practice. This is going back to my time within learning and development. There's something called the forgetting curve or Ebbinghaus effect.
Right.
So you forget things over a period of time. So we've done something, let's say it's in week 1, and we're now finished the program and we're looking at week 10. You might have forgotten what week 1 is. So the first part of the final section is looking at the first pieces of the mind to put them together. Helps you.
It's like a recap.
Yeah, just like a recap.
Yeah.
Recap how you're doing it. Do it as a group, so that then someone says, "Well, Case says I've learned this and I'm doing that." So there's somebody else planting a seed rather than me saying, "Well, you should do this," and then someone else takes your idea and that cross-pollinates into a different idea or slightly different, and someone else in the group takes the 2 ideas and it makes something else. So it's that.
Something interesting that I've just noticed when you're explaining this is that it's a group setting. So is it? I was assuming listening to it was 1-to-1, but you've talked about a group setting. Is it important that's in a group setting, or is this just a version of it? Or
I like using a group setting because the voice isn't always mine. This is again going back to learning and development. If you're at the front of the class doing all the talking, everybody gets bored of that same voice. So I like to do things in a group setting so that there's different voices and different communication that might spark a different idea. It might plant that seed. We can do it.
Do you find that? Sorry, go on. You're going to say
we can do it as a 1-to-1. That's fine, but I tend to find that 1-to-1s are normally shorter, and those interventions can be more powerful. But sometimes the idea is coming from the original thought pattern rather than letting the cross-pollination of ideas flourish and plant a deeper seed.
The people in the group, how do you... Is it selecting them? I'm just assuming that there are going to be people who might meet you, who need your help. You explain something, it's a group setting, and they're like, no, I don't want to explain my stuff and what I'm going through in a group. How does that work? Do you talk them round, or do you just give them the 1-to-1? Is it a certain kind of person that has to be? Yeah.
Sorry, the phone started. I'll just put it over there a second.
That's okay.
It's a difficult conversation because it all depends on what fits for that person. Let's say it's more of a personal issue that we want to be talking about. You know, we know that the goal is to do something, and it's something you don't want to do in front of other people. That's going to be definitely a 1-to-1. Maybe it's an ingrained belief of something else. That's going to be a 1-to-1. But if it's the standard, I've sort of got an idea on what I want to do, but I'm not clear, that's going to be a group scenario. I find the group scenario.
And do you explain this when you're doing your first assessments?
Yeah, discovery session. So we'll go through where you are, what you feel, and obviously there's going to be different costs. So it all depends really on where you are, where you want to go, what you feel is the problem, to whether we just stand with the standard group or whether we go for bespoke one-to-one.
I'm going to come off this bit. We're going to come back to this. It's super interesting. But here's a bit of a curveball question. I've been using this word curveball a lot, and I really think it's quite American, but I don't really find another word for it with British English. But anyway, I'm going to throw a bit of a curveball.
Yep.
Do you consider yourself a business owner or an entrepreneur?
I wouldn't say I was a business owner, because that sums up an image. I also wouldn't say that I'm an entrepreneur, because that sums up a different image. So the entrepreneur, I feel, is working to get something done, often a lot of hours.
Okay.
I'm very much in the life-work balance. So life first and then work, rather than the other way around, which is the common mainstream. So can I pick something different?
Of course you can. I'm interested. I mean, I've just been pondering. This is why I'm going to be asking different guests this, because there are similarities between the two, but I think people do see themselves differently when you put that to them, they're business owner or entrepreneur. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, what would you call yourself if it's not one of those two then?
I've seen the term edupreneur, as in education, producing the content.
I've not seen that. I've not seen that.
I'd be happy with that sort of label. I don't like the label to be as a standard. I'm this in a business or I'm that in a business. Rainmaker. And that's not my terminology.
Rainmaker.
So the terminology that comes from it is from a different scenario. So what I say, maybe that creates something. Maybe it creates the rain that falls on already fertile soil, and that makes the flowers grow. Maybe we're saying something and it makes it rain, but the soil isn't fertile. We don't have the idea. So the soil's not fertile, doesn't make the flowers grow, but it makes it fertile for next time.
It's very interesting. It almost sounds like you're talking about, I think another term for that would almost be something like facilitator, maybe?
Yes. Yeah, that's another L&D sort of term that I'm quite used to.
But I'm still, I mean, I'm still at a point of, you've talked very much, and it's the two horses that we have to straddle. So we've got the employee part when it comes down to what we're doing, and then we've got the director of the business part. How are you finding the responsibilities which are firmly in the business owner part of what you're doing? It is a business. It's got to make money. It's got to pay its taxes, right? It's got a service. It's got laws around it, all that kind of stuff, structures, processes. Eventually, maybe you want to scale that business. How are you finding juggling the responsibilities between being a director of the business and actually being an employee of the business? Because obviously, I'm listening to you, love the employee part. What about the directing part of it and the balance between the two?
I'm not very good.
No?
I've got a calling, and that calling is coaching.
Right.
That's the bit that I enjoy. That's where my energy comes back into me. So anything that's not coaching, I don't enjoy as much. No. It's okay. It is what it is. And like we said before, I know I have to do it.
Bit of a chore.
It's a chore. It's not the thing that excites me.
And how would you see that developing going forward as your business is growing? Would you be looking at bringing somebody in to take care of the business? Would you just have to suck it up and grow that brain and that side of you?
Yeah.
What?
I think I'd rather. I'm of a certain age now. So I mentioned this last night. I'm nearly 50. So I want to do the bits that I like doing, that give me joy, that I feel I'm giving back. So I'll do this, and I'll outsource the bits that I don't like to somebody else.
Got it.
Maybe not
and
today.
I think that's what we call playing to your strengths, right?
Yes.
I mean,
it's a waste of time. Me trying to learn something that I don't enjoy. There are other people that enjoy doing that. So let let me look after them to give their joy back to the world. Focus on what I like.
It's very interesting because I think nowadays with the whole online, how quickly it can be that you're in business, company's house, a website, business cards, domain name. There are a few things that we can do quite quickly, and we are technically in business. But it's interesting what you've just said, because being the person who runs the business per se isn't really for everybody. And I think a lot of people struggle with that.
Yeah.
I think they do struggle with a feeling that, and there is no school about it as such, because this is the entrepreneurial part of everything. But when you now start looking at general managers, people who take care of admin, people take care of finance, people take care of maybe onboarding the clients in a certain way, marketing, I should say, not onboarding them, because I think that's something that you'd rather do. When you start looking at different departments within the business, I think people are obliged, because of money, because of how quickly they can just get things done by themselves, to think of wearing all of the hats and doing everything. But you've just hit upon something I've never thought about before. It's not even just you're not good at it, you just don't want to do it.
That's how it feels to me. I don't want to do it. I don't get anything back from it. It doesn't make me, I mean, you're lighting up there. It doesn't make me light up. Doesn't make me smile.
Right.
It's like, I get it done. But the coaching and seeing those breakthroughs and the little light bulb moments, that's where I enjoy stuff. So I want to stay there as much as I can.
If you're a fly on the wall, as crazy as this sounds, if you're a fly on the wall, listening to one of your clients, past, present, existent, talking about you to somebody else, what is the one thing you would love to hear them say about you?
I think it's that I made them think.
Okay.
And it's about them thinking. It's not about me giving an answer. I made them stop and I made them think. I helped them.
Made them stop and made them think. I think that bit's very important. Made them stop and made them think. Not just the thinking part, because I think sometimes our thinking can actually completely bury us. But there's a stopping part, you said there, a bit of reflection going on, and then the thinking.
I think you might be right. So it's maybe a 3-part in there. Maybe it's a stop and a think and a choice.
Right.
Because
and why would that be so important to them?
We fall into the same...
That's something they've learned from you.
Yeah, we fall into the same patterns. We do things the same way. Our maps of the world that we've got stored up here are all different based on our own individual experience. So because of that, a lot of what comes in, so 95% of what we see, what we hear, so all of our senses come in and are dealt with by the computer part of the brain. But then that's dealt with 20 times faster than the next part of the brain, which is the chimp, going back to Steve Peters. So that 95%, it could be anything. So 5 million pieces of information per second, and 95% of that is just dealt with automatically. So it's understanding that I then make the choice on what I want to see and what I want to look at. You know, we all go and look at buying a car, and then we see that sort of car everywhere. That's where it's going through the chimp, and we're then focusing. So it's that reticular activation system that decides that I want to pay attention to that because that's important to Scott. So it's that stopping. So
it's that not stopping ourselves, just like going through the emotions and taking a bit more control over what we're deciding, or knowing. I think being aware that there are things that we're thinking about or going through that are just reactions, I suppose, that are just happening to us, and we think it's us doing it, but it's actually happening to us, and taking more control back and being a bit more focused on what you do want to focus on or what you should be focusing on at any given time.
Yeah, and sometimes it's not happening to us; it's happening for us. So it's helping us see a path.
Okay.
It's helping us see that there's something different. I've used the term before. I think I've used it with you. Sometimes the storm comes to clear a path. So that different thought pattern.
So that's perspective. Yeah. That's perspective, isn't it?
Well, we can put it as perspective. We can put it as whatever. We could put it as God. I'm not religious. We could put it as the universe. Whatever thing we think helps us do something, that's what it is. It's trying to tap into that.
Right.
And all of that goes in, really, in my opinion, to be your reticular activation system, the certain parts of the brain that work together to look after that 95%, to see what we're doing, what we're focusing on.
Did you always have an interest in how people or how we think and why we behave a certain way? Is it always been of interest?
It has been a huge interest. It's something I talk about a lot with my children, which is where I got a lot of the interest. So much so that my eldest is a clinical psychologist.
Oh wow!
So it's a family thing that we're interested in. So you talk about it even more, and then understanding how things work. And this goes back a lot of the time to sport. So the sport then takes place, and you understand how the little things can make a big difference.
So that's physical though, is it? Or is it mental when you're talking about it from the sports point of view?
For me, it's mental. So I played rugby. I'm not the biggest of guys. So I would play it fly half, and then that's about controlling the game. So that's...
I have no idea what that is. I don't
Johnny
watch
Wilkinson
rugby.
Kicking that goal in 2003.
Okay.
That's the same sort of place. So it's about controlling everything that's going on around you and slowing down the time, and then dealing with that control for the different people playing to their strengths. So it's just, it all comes back to that, is understanding how I can bolt the pieces together, because I've obviously got that sort of mindset, wanting to go to school to be a mechanic, understanding how I can put things together.
Of course, yeah, how things work, how to get the best out of things. Oh, right. It's interesting, isn't it? I mean, a lot of times, I remember having conversations with, it was a change, I think, difference between being in the UK and having somebody say to me, oh, you've had so many different jobs, we can't tell if you're stable or not.
Yeah.
And then being in France and having an interview over there, and they're being like, oh my God, the fact that you've done these jobs just shows that how adaptable you are or something. It was just a complete change, but it's down to us, and it did take me to be helped with it, to be able to see a pattern through everything that I was doing. And a lot of it for me was to actually do with helping people in every role that I did. There was an element of customer service. Even as I explained to people, working as a prison court officer way back then, about 15 years, no, it's got to be more than 15 years ago, 20 something years ago. Prison court officer, I was explaining, because my next job after that was for Louis Vuitton. The guy was saying to me, how can you go from working with criminals to work for Louis Vuitton? I don't get it. He was really salty. And I said to him, customer service.
Nice.
And you think I was just being cocky, but in actual fact, in my brain, it was like, this is the answer to the question. They need something. I'm providing something. I need to be attentive to them. I can, there's people that are in that jail cell who may not be there because they actually did something, because they're of malice or whatever. It might be part of their life experience and they're scared or whatever it is. And there's a role to look after those people. And even I think for the people who you could call full-on criminals, you still go the other way of saying they're human beings. You still have to look after them, that kind of thing. But I'm saying the thread through the different jobs, you get to that point, I think, at your life, or if you're lucky enough, to start to see how it all fits together and how everything's kind of built one upon another. Yeah. Does that make sense?
It makes complete sense. And you've made a couple of nice points there. So you've said about the way it's perceived in England as opposed to the way it's perceived in France. So we can see that cultural difference is going to affect your thinking pattern. So that's what helped to unpick. Right. That's where the stop comes in. And also, if you were saying about the Louis Vuitton versus the jail cell, whoever's in that jail cell, they're completely immersed in that learning environment. So all of the learning that makes you stay in that jail cell are the bits that's reinforced.
Right.
So it's that thinking pattern.
Very, very interesting. Okay, look, I didn't really mention it, but tell me the name of your business. And then tell me why you chose that name for your business.
Okay. I'm a performance coach. And I like looking at how people do things in their life. And to try and systematize it. So imaginatively, I've called it Life Performance System. So we look at the life.
But where's the system part come into it? So I get the life and the performance. Where's the system part?
So the system is the process that we have to deal with things through a different structure. So about controlling the mind, to open it up, to allow the different thinking, creating the goal based around what we should or shouldn't be doing. So we need to explore that, and keeping the momentum. So it's that 3-phase system that comes into the name.
And when did you officially launch your business?
I've been working around and doing stuff for a long, long time, but I'm very,
Right.
as we mentioned earlier on with regards to the business, are you the businessman or you're the coach? I enjoy doing the bit.
Yep.
So I've
Yep.
been doing this for an awful long time, not under the guise of life performance system.
Got it.
So I'm also looking after coaches. So as part of a government scheme, I train coaches.
Oh, right.
Up to a level 5, which is a bachelor's level. So I use it within that environment as well to help them be able to do
These
it.
coaches, they go off to then do what kind of coaching? Is it a specific kind of coaching, or?
It's supposed to be within an organisation, but that's very one-dimensional to me, because if you're looking at an organisation, you're not adding the bits that come with that, the brain stuff. So they make their choice after they've got the qualification, and inevitably many of them either don't carry on with coaching, do a little bit of coaching, but it's nice to feel that the ones that were really in tune with coaching spread their wings and take on whatever guise suits them, so they can bring their joy to the world.
What would you say is a common characteristic that you come across with these coaches that you're training?
Curiosity.
Ah.
I think Ted Lasso. Do you watch Ted Lasso?
I haven't.
Okay.
I haven't got around to it. Apple TV, I always remember it's there and then forget, because then I've got an iPhone and a Mac.
He's being judged all of his life, and he mentions that people that he doesn't know judge him based on what they feel. They're not curious. If they're curious to find out about him, that they would know. And this is in a scene where he's playing darts. So if he was curious to find out before he judged that he couldn't play darts, he would realise that he played darts every Saturday with his dad from 11 till 16, I think it was, until his father passed away. So that curiosity as a coach is the vitally important ingredient that can help us start. Curiosity without judgment.
Curiosity without judgment. And is that curiosity is that something you use within your coaching that then you kind of teach your coachee to be curious about themselves?
Yes.
Is it?
Yeah.
It's like you lead the way of curiosity, and then you kind of hand it over to them to be more curious about why they do certain things. Or
so where did that belief come from? So let's go back to the
Right.
England, us not liking the jumping around on jobs. So is that a real belief, or is that something you've made up in your head? What's the facts for it, or what's the belief that sort of flourishes around it? If we're not curious about understanding where these come from, we don't know. Bias is another one.
Right.
So that unconscious bias
Right.
that comes from making a judgment based around something that happened. As one day when I was at school, I got bullied by somebody wearing a tracksuit, so now I'm always worried about somebody wearing a tracksuit. There you go, there's a bias that's formed going all the way back to there, but it's never happened since, so why have I got this bias for it? Explore that, find the curiosity that goes with it.
Very interesting. Could you tell me, throughout your career, is there one success story that sticks out to you? Something where you've gone from one state to another, and for you it's a kind of jewel in your crown when it comes down to your job?
It would be really difficult painting a certain thing, but a lot of it is to deal with confidence. So I was working with one lady that had completely no confidence, and we had to drill all the way back to try and find out where it stemmed from, whether it was a throwaway comment or whether it wasn't a throwaway comment, whether it was fact or whether it was fiction. Once you can get the confidence that goes with that, that's always a big thing, and it's always the starting point for me. So understanding, is this real or is it not real? So the lady then decided to complete her bachelor's, so the level 5. She didn't even do GCSEs at school. She had no confidence because of that. So it helped her as an individual develop into what she wanted to do, which gave the world more coaches and let her use her joy, her belief, whatever the world has given her, she's then able to use that with other people.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Thank you.
That is beautiful. Is it somebody you're still in contact with, or
not as often as I should be?
Do you know what she?
Yeah,
really?
I know that she's still within the coaching industry. She's in a different part of the country now, so I don't interact as much as I would have liked to. But that's the thing, people come into your life for multiple reasons.
Of course, most definitely.
What's the saying? Come into your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. So, we work together for a reason to help her do that. Maybe it's not a lifetime, and we've got to be okay with letting that go.
And I think that's been a big thing for me over the years, is actually getting to that acceptance and knowing when to let things go. But again, I talk about this with another coach that I know who works with young people, and when we talk about her coaching techniques and what she helps young people and teens with, the more and more I think how important it is that we're taught a lot of these things earlier. So certain of these techniques about how we think, why we think should be happening at school, rather than we actually have an experience of it later in life when something's a bit broken. And mainly because we didn't have those tools to use in our life, or ways of looking at things.
Agreed. There's a lot of this stuff. There's a lot of this stuff that can be taught in schools quite easily, because a lot of it is bolted into biology. How the neuroscience and how it works together to start. But there are so many things. I'll get on my soapbox in a minute if we start talking about school. There are so many things that are not taught at school that would make us so much better after.
Right. I totally. And having 3 boys, I mean, the 15-year-old who's going through GCSEs right now, and you, as somebody, you've been through exams yourself, your kid's going through it, it's like a horror story. I remember when my oldest, when he was, he had his heart broken by a girl, and I know it's something he needs to go through, right? But I want to protect him. But where do you learn how to cope with these different things? Anxiety that comes with exams, knowing that there's a certain amount of anxiety that you, I suppose, can ignore, or there's certain things you can do that can make it worse. I don't know, but from what I can see from adults, let alone from children, is that we're very lucky if we come across a book or a video or an audio or somebody in our life, or have the money to be able to pay for somebody who can help us know how to manage our thoughts and our feelings. I think that's it. Something
there
like
needs
that.
to be a handbook for the brain, isn't it? But I mean, with what you're saying now, the anxiety...
Yeah, something like that.
The anxiety, the feeling of anxiety comes from exactly the same place in the brain that excitement comes from. It's the same feelings.
Interesting.
So we need to try and rephrase our relationship with anxiety. Is it anxiety or is it excitement? It's that stop and think bit. I've got the same feelings, but I've still got the same tummy tickles that I'd have if I was excited or if I'm being anxious. Which one is it?
Yeah.
I'm taking the kids to Thorpe Park at the weekend, so I don't really like roller coasters, but it's a big thing for me, part of my 50th year celebrations, all that sort of thing. So I'm going to be in the queue.
Congrats.
With my stomach going. So is that anxiety or is that excitement? And I make the choice.
There you go.
Ultimately,
That's a good
I
example.
make the choice to see whether I frame it as one or the other. And if I frame that as anxiety...
Oh, that's a massive one.
If I frame that as anxiety while I'm in the queue, that's going to ruin my day.
There you go.
Excitement.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's a massive golden nugget for me, hearing that. That's really, same feelings, same chemical reactions, and you get to choose which one it is. Where can you share a challenge you've had in your building of your business and how you overcame it?
Okay. Technical. I'm not a technical on the system type of thing. I don't understand it enough. I like taking mechanicals apart to understand, but if I can't see the processes, so building funnels within Go High levels, I struggled with.
Okay.
I found a good guy that helped me understand how I can do things, gave me the simple advice. So,
How did you find the guy though?
he was in a group. And he was asking for help for one thing, and I'm asking for help for another thing. So they come together. This is what the universe does, isn't it? If you need something and you understand what you need, they need something, they understand what they need.
Does throw you signs.
The universe puts you together. So that helped me be able to get the website up, be able to start the funnel. But again, it's not the bits that I like. It's not the bits that I'm good at.
No. But did you feel a sense of achievement?
Yes.
Getting over that technical hump?
Yes, I got very excited and told a lot of people about it. And it's something that I keep playing with because it's not my skill set. I get to a certain point and that anxiety or the excitement comes across and I decide that it's not good enough. And understanding that good enough is where I say it is. So if I'm just going to accept it to be at this level, and I'm okay with that, then it's okay at this level. I just need to reframe my thinking to get my voice out there.
How do you measure the growth of your business and or your personal growth as the career, as the employee of your business beyond revenue? How do you know that you're getting better at stuff?
Yeah.
How do you know that your business is maturing beyond how much money you're making?
Am I improving as a coach? Am I giving my gift to more and more people? Am I helping more and more people? Am I getting if we're on the call now, all of a sudden you get that big smile comes up. Am I seeing that from the people, or am I seeing the bits where they stop and you can see them thinking? So I think for me, being a performance coach, the important part is, am I facilitating the journey that person needs to go on rather than giving them something else?
So is it, I think it's both, but is it how many times you're seeing these moments of clarity for them, or is it how many people you're helping have those moments of clarity?
I've not thought about that with enough detail. I'm happy with one. If I help one person, my work is done. I can go and help somebody else.
That's beautiful. Why are you so interested in helping people in this way?
I think because I've been through stuff and I didn't have anybody to help me. I did have people to help me, but those people didn't have the knowledge to be able to explain what's going on.
Right. Didn't know how to help you in exactly the way you needed at that time.
And I've always been interested in how it works. So I think that's where that came from.
Absolutely lovely. Okay, look, I've got like 2 bits left to this interview, but it is bonus question time. It's the first time I'm doing this.
Do we get a drum roll?
So, do you know what? I think I might have to actually put that in the effects. I'm going to go nuts with the effects, or I might just put it out raw, I don't know. But I need you to pick a number between 1 and 18, and I'm going to ask the bonus question based on that number.
I'm going to go with number 10.
What's the most surprising thing you've learned about business ownership since you've had a business? What's the most surprising thing you've learned?
It's not a case of putting my flag out. If I say I'm a coach and I put my flag out, people don't come running.
Interesting.
I've got to get to them in some way, and I don't like sales. I don't like that environment. It's not me. So I had a wise mentor tell me not so long ago that it's about being authentic and getting out there and just coaching people. If I'm coaching them by promoting a thought pattern in them just by something I've put on a Facebook post. I'm still coaching. I'm not having the conversation.
Yes.
So it's about helping the people, and then that will come back.
Yeah, one of my good coaches, Michael Killen, he taught me for the work that I do that I need to really treat it like a moral obligation.
Nice.
In exactly the same way that you might be a doctor, see somebody who's a bit sick out, you don't stop to think about it, you just help them. And I think there's more of that needs to be done. And at the same token, within the work that I do, it's important for you to strike that balance between the employee and a business owner. With no business and no revenue, it's going to be a massive challenge to be able to help as many people as you can, which should exactly be the force and the power behind the business. But at the same token, I think there is a part of what we do where when it's a vocation, you do it anyway, and you don't put the money first, you put the people first. And I think I totally believe it. It may not be the quickest way to riches, but I think the word authentic, genuine, heartfelt, human-centered, heart-centered, for people who are that way inclined, I think it's a brilliant way to grow your business when it's focused on the people, because especially nowadays where you have a lot of, I suppose, people being ripped off via all of the marketing messages that are out there, right? So you're looking, like you said, you've got a technical issue, you're going out there looking, checking. It hurts the amount of times that you buy something or watch something and it does not do what it said on the tin. They've just they've exploited your need or your desperation. Right?
Yeah.
And that kind of thing, it doesn't sit right with me, and I know it doesn't sit right with you, that there's got to be another way to do business beyond just exploiting somebody, who's in a bad way just for you to make a buck off them.
You used the term.
There's got to be a nice win-win.
Completely. You used the term earlier on, riches. So to me, riches aren't the money value, the house, the car, the whatever. It's that I'm richer because I'm having that experience. I'm helping people. I'm doing what I feel I should be doing. That's making me richer. As long as I can do what I need to do.
Of course.
We get lost in that chasing some kind of trophy, which helps us or hinders us, because it creates that environment and that thought pattern that I'm chasing this riches, so I do that sale, which isn't the right thing, and I'm taking that money from somebody else.
And it should be an exchange of value, I believe.
Yeah. If we're both happy with it, it's right. If I'm taking some money from somebody for a month down the line for them to say this isn't right, I didn't get the value, I would be mortified. Yeah,
that's how I feel as well. Okay, let's finish up. There's two things I want to do now. The first thing is I want you to provide a piece of advice to somebody who's listened to you and is interested in basically doing what you do. How would you advise them? What would you advise that they do about that, getting on their way towards being a performance coach?
Be curious. Listen. Don't jump to conclusions. Don't jump to give the best piece of advice you've read in a book or you've watched on the telly. Just listen. Find out where it's coming from. That's the biggest thing.
And if people want to learn more about how they can work with you, learn more about what you do, where should they go?
I've started a Facebook group. So I've got some training in the Facebook group that they can have. So that's the best place to start. Is going to be the Facebook group.
What's the training about that they can get?
So it's a 30-day. So rather than the 3 different modules that would go over 12 weeks, it's little snapshot videos that can help you over each of the 30 days. That will go into a lot of the stuff I've explained here, but we'll go into more detail how we can use it.
What's the group called?
It's Life Performance System in the group. So it's Facebook /groups/Life Performance System.
Well, what I'll do anyway is on the page where the podcast episode is going to be published, we have a link there as well, and it will be in the episode notes as well. Yeah.
Thank you, Case.
Perfect. Scott, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you. With all transparency, Scott and myself have known each other for, what is it? Come up to 2 months?
Only 2 months. Gosh.
Yeah. Feels like a lot longer.
In a good
to be
way.
Fair.
Good.
And in a good way. In a good way. In a good way. But I've really, really loved, outside of just even today's interview, learning about what you do. I've always had a fascination for life coaching, executive coaching, any coaching that helps with somebody's development, personal development coaching. I've always had a fascination behind that. And it's been a real pleasure speaking to you. And I'm a bit tentative, but I hope you'll be okay to come on again at some point in the future, because I'd love to speak to you more, and maybe even talk about a few techniques, maybe even like a little bit of a mini workshop kind of thing, so the listeners we can take a certain kind of common problem and talk about the different techniques that you would give them inside your workshop for them to practice and then use in their daily life, something like that. I think that could be
very
quite
interested
cool.
to do that.
Yeah?
Anytime, Case, anytime.
Cool. All right, thanks again.
Thank you.
And all right, so thank you so much for listening to today's episode. The next, I can't remember who's going to be next on, but I look forward to seeing you on the next episode of Attract, Sell, Nurture, the podcast. Thank you for tuning in to this episode. This podcast is for anyone who is passionate about making a difference through their work and wants to learn from others doing exactly the same. It's about the journey of creating a service business that not only generates revenue, but also contributes to the betterment of lives and the world around us. So if you are someone who has a story to tell, someone who is making waves in your field, or someone who has unique insights on the synergy between service businesses and societal transformation, I would love to hear from you. I'm always seeking amazing guests to feature on this show. So if you or someone you know fits this description, please apply via the link in the comments or the show notes of this episode.